line at the end, guys, really makes me think about the style of Gary Moore, late Gary Moore, although I'm demonstrating it over a Greg Howe song, right, a Tempest Ball song, but basically it's the same really aggressive, fast, bluesy shred lines. So I'm gonna teach you one of those kind of lines here. More importantly, the concepts that go into these lines, because I kid you not, these lines are pretty tricky to pull off. It's gonna take some time to work on it to get that real aggressive sound you want. So that's coming up in screen temperature, and also it's kind of diverting a little bit on typical fusion stuff I'm teaching here, but I think you really should know this. If you want to learn fusion guitar, remember your first step should be learn some arpeggio shapes, right? That's why I'm in the description below. I've always, it's free arpeggio guide. I started the whole Introspection Academy creating for you guys an arpeggio guide, 22 shapes, 10 pages, even indicating which arpeggios Greg uses. For example, players like Greg Howe are using all the time. But now, without further ado, here's a big, fat, aggressive shred line for you to learn. Guys, so let me teach you a little bit about what this line is about. So first of all, we are in B minor blues scale, right? That is the notes that I'm using in this fast and aggressive shred line. Now a few things, guys. First, three principles, right? First of all, I'm using the blue note, right? Really heavily, right? So let me show you, right? Only that first part of the line. I'm not doing, that would be the 9th fret, but I'm using the 10th fret, which is the blue note, which is called the blue note, or the flat 5. Right, that already gives that aggressive sound, guys. When I was studying Gary Moore, it took me years to figure out, like, oh, why are his lines more aggressive than mine? Well, he's using the blue note instead of the 5th. He's using the instead of using the 4th, he's using the flat 5, right? Instead of this, he's using. So first principle, guys, right? Use the blue note. Try to get it in as much as you can. Secondly, if you look at the notes that I'm using, right, it's only these notes, right? Nothing more. That's not too many notes, and still I'm going on and going on. Well, most of the time I'm using what I'm calling a kind of partial backtracking system, what I call a partial backtracking system. Now, what is it? Particularly in this line, guys, I'm using. Calling this the first part, right? Not backing track yet, backtracking yet. But at that point, guys, I'm gonna backtrack, so I'm gonna go back up, but partially. I'm going only till the second highest note, right? Not the highest note, which is the 3rd, but I'm going to 9th, right? So, and then I'm going back up in that same pathway, right? So then. Back on the blue note, I'm gonna backtrack again now till that note here, right? Another lower note, which is now the root note. So and then I'm going back up again. So you see how I just targeted those notes, partial backtracked to those notes. So I'm getting a lot of mileage out of that line, right? Now comes a third point, which I really also learned from Gary Moore, so kind of a huge Greg Howe fan last 10, 12 years, but guys, I spent years studying and playing Gary Moore too, so that last step, and it's a complete game changer for me as well. Once I get to the G string in minor blues scale, I switch to middle finger, which is a very trademark of Gary Moore, and it's a game changer, right? I just can't play those lines when I'm going with the ring finger or the 3rd finger. Right? I don't know why. And it's the same with Gary Moore. He always switches on the G string to that middle finger. Then he gets that kind of really aggressive Gary Moore sound, right? And this is much more trickier than you would think, right? So these are my 3 points, guys, right? Use the blue note. Secondly, get get to work with that partial backtracking system. Thirdly, use the middle finger. So I'm using the third finger for strings on one, the bottom string and the second string. I'm using the second finger right on the G string. So these are my 3 takeaways for those kind of lines, guys. Alright? So yeah, guys, as always, this complete lesson is up on Patreon. It's got early access for my Greg Howe Heaven tier, which is the highest tier. Here are my patrons. These are all people supporting me on Patreon, so there's a link in the description below. You can consider supporting me there. You get a tablet of these lessons, early access. More importantly, you get an extra lesson, right? Everybody gets an extra lesson not shown here on YouTube, exclusively on Patreon for people that are supporting me there. And then, yeah, the rest, make sure you grab that free arpeggio guide as always. If you didn't do that, I mean, that's crazy. It's a no-brainer, right? It's for free. It's in the description below. And finally, if you like this stuff what I'm trying to do here, guys, hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you next week for a new lesson. Bye.